It can't be done. You can't live without a smartphone. At least that's what I thought a year ago before I started this experiment, but I have proven that isn't true. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Ashton. Over the past year or so, I've been sharing my journey without a smartphone and sharing those updates here on my channel. I've been surprised by the feedback on my videos, and I'm excited there are so many of you who care about this topic as much as I do. A year ago, before I started, I think the biggest reason I wanted to switch in retrospect is because I was concerned by the idea that a human being can't live without a certain electronic device. It's quite bizarre if you think about it, but I was 29 and I didn't really have a good grasp on what it's like to be an adult without a smartphone. This is something that my parents and grandparents experienced, but I didn't experience. I didn't really know how to go about my day-to-day life without the luxury and convenience of a smartphone, and so I decided to try it. And here I am on the other side. For over a year, I have lived without a smartphone, without a high-quality camera in my pocket, without a streaming music player, without email on my phone or social media on my phone, without GPS. I'm going to talk first a little bit about my experience. Just what is it like living without a smartphone? For those of us who grew up in the 90s, I think there's a lot of nostalgia around that time. And for me, a lot of that is about the fact that nobody had a smartphone or even a cell phone. But I was surprised and excited to find that I could kind of reconnect with some of the benefits of that time through this experiment. I've been much more focused at work because all of my work now takes place in front of the computer, so I'm much more intentional and focused when it is actually time to work. I have time for creative hobbies because I'm not scrolling through social media or news or anything on my phone. My phone doesn't do anything fun, and that means I have time to get bored. Have you ever been bored as an adult? I don't think I had until this experiment, but boredom equals creativity. I'm much more confident, and specifically related to the fact that I didn't have GPS on my phone for so long. That has really increased my confidence as a driver, my sense of direction, figuring out where places are, learning my way around the city I live in, putting myself in challenging situations sometimes because of that, asking people for directions. It's really boosted my confidence overall, and that was a surprising result of this experiment. I also spend a lot more time outside. A lot of my boredom has resulted in me going for a walk because I realized I needed exercise, and I have felt really well as a result because I feel better the more time that I exercise and spend outside. I've also made better connections with people both over the phone and in person. Because it's not been as easy to text people or communicate through social media, I found myself making more phone calls and also being more willing to go to events and connect with people in person. And I really look forward to those occasions. I've really been able to value people and experiences more than things. And to me, that's kind of the definition of minimalism. I would consider myself a minimalist. I try to be intentional with the items I bring into my home. It really wasn't until I started to be intentional with my use of technology that I could fully understand what minimalism means to me. Items and technology, they don't just take up physical space, but they also take up a lot of mental space. And removing the things that are distracting and not important to me has made a lot more room for the experiences and things that are important to me. Is there anything that I missed about a smartphone? Yes. The ease of texting, specifically being able to send photos and share photos with people. And I do think there is a tactile experience to the touchscreen that I started to miss. The other thing is music, specifically being able to listen to music when I'm in the car or out on a walk. There just isn't a simple way to do that with a flip phone, and so that is something that I missed. I'd like to summarize with 3 of my biggest takeaways. Number 1, this gave me the opportunity to reflect on changes that I wanted to make in my life and actually make them. I found that I had so much more free time without the distraction of a smartphone that I was actually able to accomplish a lot over the past year, both professionally and personally. Number 2, I've had so much more time for creativity and hobbies, and I've actually created more than I've consumed. I saw this graphic on Pinterest a few years ago that said, create more than you consume. And I was like, that's a nice sentiment. I love that. but at the time I was definitely consuming more content than I was creating. I'm using creating in a general term. It could be creating content for my business or creating things to give to people as gifts or working on DIY projects in my house, things like that. And I've actually created more than I've consumed over this past year, which is amazing because it's something that I've always sort of strived to, and now I actually know how to do it. And third, I think a smartphone is nothing more than an expensive luxury and a privilege for many people. I used to think it was a necessity, and having lived without it, I know that that's not true. While I call it a privilege and a luxury, it's a double-edged sword because at the same time, the data and information that we supply to our smartphones is used against us by many companies. Most of the time, we don't have a full understanding of what data is being collected about us and how it's being used and whether or not that is to our benefit. And so that doesn't really meet the definition of consent. So I think you can view it from either side. It's a privilege and it's a nice to have. But at the same time, we have to understand that for the convenience of using a smartphone, there are trade-offs. And I've tried to just kind of inform myself about what those are. There's been times when, I continued to use a smartphone even though I was aware of these issues, and times where I used my simple phone and felt really good about the fact that I was sort of pushing back against those problems. But at the end of the day, I think you have to do what's right for you and work with the technology and the options that you have to use your technology intentionally. And to me, that's what digital minimalism is. So I'm going to continue my journey of using my digital tools intentionally, and I think at different seasons of life that might look different. As far as what's next, I want to explore using an iPhone again with everything that I've learned and experienced over the past year. I have seen firsthand that most of the features that are on a smartphone are not necessary and are even distracting from my goals. But at the same time, I think that there are some features that might be an asset to my goals. I'm going to continue this journey and update you in future videos with how it's going and what I'm doing and what I'm trying. I appreciate you following along, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.